Thank you for the kind comments. Just a reminder to anybody who happens to see this, I'm not a therapist or any other kind of expert. I'm a therapy client, kind of psychology nerd in general, but take everything with a grain of salt because I'm not a professional. But so as far as kind of comparing the different parts that exist in structural dissociation and IFS, I can definitely see what you're saying in that EPs can seem a lot like an exile in that they are a part of us that we tend to try to like dissociate from or not really see as part of us, distance ourselves from. However, I also think that when I think of some of my EPs, they also really can feel like firefighters. For example, my gaslighter part, it feels like it is gaslighting me because it is panicking and urgently trying to get me back into a, I was gonna say like a regulated state, but probably more of like a shutdown state. It's like if I just get so activated that I can't handle it, it's like it's gonna gaslight me into, you're fine, that didn't happen, you're crazy, just shut up and calm down. And so that feels like a firefighter to me. But I think it also kind of is an exile. So like I think basically structural dissociation and IFS, like their parts, they don't really have one-to-one comparisons. And so in the same way, like I don't really think there is a core self in structural dissociation because EPs certainly aren't your core self. They're parts that you don't spend very much time in. They tend to hold like traumatic memories and traumatic responses. But our ANP, I think the reason it's called apparently normal part is because it's not really our core self. I'm sure it's different for everybody, but your ANP could include things like people pleasing or perfectionism or intellectualizing, which is like low level dissociation. Just different things that are still trauma based, and so therefore they're not your core self. They're survival strategies or things like that, which it's just parts, I guess, kind of trauma parts that we are more comfortable with or that are more socially acceptable than other behaviors or coping methods that we might see in EPs. I have one therapist who is familiar with structural dissociation, and so we use that language sometimes, but it's not like a primary modality that we use in session. But I do think that integration is basically the goal, and I think that to some degree, as trauma gets processed, the EPs will kind of settle down a bit. At least that has been my experience. In my experience, sometimes just being able to see an EP as an EP really takes the wind out of its sails a good amount. Definitely not entirely, like it still can like get triggered and it still happens, but it definitely loses some of its power. And so I think even just that like awareness of the EP from the ANP is a little bit of integration that is really helpful.